All right, welcome to episode 217 with a guy I really like and been a big fan of for years, Joe Diffie. Good to hear you. Good to see you.
Well,
All
thank
that
you.
stuff.
Thank you. You as well.
You know, I was looking at, I know most of the stuff about you. Like, I've been a fan. Before we've been able to be friends, I was just a massive fan of you growing up.
Awesome, man.
And so, as I kind of went into the deep dive, because I always like to find out, what do I not know about the people that are coming over to the house?
Right.
Listen to this. I don't know if you even knew this.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
On this day, December 16th, 1994, you had the number one song on the Billboard Country chart with Pickup Man. It was your longest lasting number one, having spent 4 weeks at number one from December 94 to January 95. Did you know that was today?
No, I didn't know it's today. I knew the rest of that, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize the date of it. That's pretty cool.
On this day in
I counted as 4 number
1994.
ones.
Yeah. So, for example, Luke Combs just spent 3 weeks at number one. And that's for a song, the last 3 weeks at number one, especially today, is a really big deal. Yeah. When you have a song that's number one for 4 weeks in 1994, what's really the vibe of that?
Well, I mean, it was unusual because back then, they put out a lot more songs. The frequency of, you put out four or five songs a year. And now you might have one song that stays on the charts, lingering there at some point for almost a year, So that was kind of the weird part. We had to wait to see how long it was going to stay number one before we could put out another record. So,
did you feel like that song was going to be a number one song?
I knew it from the instant I heard it.
Really?
I really did. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just something about it. I just,
Have you been able to name and nail most of your big songs from the first time you heard them?
Yeah, pretty much. There was a couple that I didn't, like John Deere Green. I hated it when I first heard it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because the demo, and now it's a long saga, but when I first heard it, it was done by the writer named Dennis Lindy, and he had a very eclectic sounding voice, and he did all his own demos at his house. So it had like a Jews harp playing, and he's like, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then my producer, he said, ignore the demo part. I have to add right now that I subsequently loved all of Dennis Lindy's demos. They were so cool after you kind of figured out what was happening, But anyway, my producer said, listen to the words, and I was like, man, I just don't like it at all. He goes, well, he said, I think this is a hit. And I said, well, we can try it. We'll go in the studio and cut it, and if it doesn't work out, then we can scrap it. So luckily it worked out.
So you go in, and at what point? Is it during the session? Is it during the tracking? When do you go, oh, there might be something here with John Deere Green?
When we tracked it, because obviously it was a lot different than the demo, So, yeah, once we started tracking, I was like, that is a pretty good song right there.
What song of yours, when you play it, gets the biggest response?
John Deere Green.
And you know what's funny about that? It was not a number one song.
I know. Isn't that weird?
And it's, I talk with a lot of young artists now, and they're like, I just want that number one. I'm like, I get it. You do. But, and Keith Urban and I have talked about this, where a lot of his biggest songs weren't number ones.
Right. Isn't that weird? Of course, back in those days, I mean, there were like 4 or 5 different charts. So I think it did go number one in one of them. I don't know which one, but yeah, that is a strange phenomenon. Some songs that do go number one don't sell as well, et cetera. So
for me, when I think about your music, like my favorite song is "Prop Me Up."
Oh yeah,
and that was not a number one song.
Yeah,
on the radio chart.
Right.
I mean, when I think of Joe Diffie, this is the song for me. I know every word. I remember when it came out. I bought the CD, and I memorized every word so I could sing all of it. I did that and Third Rock, because Third Rock was a little harder because the words were a lot faster.
Right.
But this is the song for me that if someone's like, what's your favorite? Matter of fact, when you came in, I was like, Joe, you got to play Prop Me Up.
Right.
And you did. And again, it peaked at number 3 on the radio chart.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right?
It's a big record for me.
The video, though, for this song is what I really remember from the song as well. Because back in the day, we used to really watch CMT for music videos.
Right. A lot, yeah. You know what I remember about that video, mostly filming the video? It was so hot. Man, and they had these buckets of like Sea-Breeze. Remember Sea-Breeze? It was kind of like a facial cleanser or some kind of deal. And it was but it had like a aromatic kind of effect. And they were dabbing all of us with that stuff, But I just remember it was so hot. And plus the dead guy. He was so funny, man.
That to me is, Those two songs, and I didn't, again, as I started deep diving you, I was like, man, my favorite two songs, number 5 and a number 3.
Yeah.
And you say that John Deere Green gets the biggest. When you do your set list, what do you start with? What's the first song?
Third Rock from the Sun.
You come out high energy, huh?
Yeah.
Which this was a number 1 song for you.
Yeah.
I just would have a problem going out and doing the fast stuff quick because then I'd be out of breath for the next 3 songs.
That has happened.
Yeah, so I'm like,
Especially, I tell you where it happens to me a lot is if I'm, on the Opry, for some reason it makes you nervous. And boy, if you ever get backwards when you're breathing in that song, you are screwed. I mean, it's over,
Tell me about this song, Third Rock. So you heard it. Were you like, well, what's this about? It's like what?
I always thought it was like a little mini movie, which I heard a lot of songwriters say you try to write a little 3-minute movie, But honestly, this was one that, even though I liked it, there was the same publisher had played 2 different songs for us, and I liked the other one better actually, and so anyway, I ended up getting both of them. I had to do a little wheeling and dealing. Some guy apparently I can't verify this, but I was told this. Garth Brooks wanted Third Rock as well. So.
And how did you get Third Rock? What was the wheeling?
We told them
deal?
we cut both. We would do both of their songs.
Do you know what the other song was?
It was called something about.
If you're
the
having
radio.
to think, I guess it really was never a single.
Well, it was
huh?
never a single. Yeah, I'm just.
Did you put it on the record?
Yeah, it's on there.
I'm gonna run through your number 1s real quick. Let's do Home.
Yeah,
Your first one, 1990.
Yeah, the debut single.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
First song out, and you go number 1.
My first 6 went number 1 apparently.
6 in a row.
Yeah.
So do you think after, let's say, 2 or 3, that you have it figured out?
You know what? I felt like I felt a little bit like a rube. I was so naive about the whole process. Even though I kind of knew about stuff, but man, when you start off like from what I did, I was on the road 300 days a year, and so I didn't really have time to think about stuff. I was busy, traveling and doing shows and doing meet and greets and all that stuff.
So what brought you to Nashville? Meaning, I know the music, I know the thought of country music, but there's always something where you get that push or you get kind of the itch.
Well, I got laid off from my job. I was working at a foundry back in Duncan, Oklahoma, and they shut the plant down, laid us all off, and and I'd been singing little VFWs. And
How old were you?
20. I moved to Nashville when I was 28.
Oh, so a little bit older.
Yeah.
Compared to like the 19,
Right.
22-year-olds that are moving here now.
Exactly.
So you get laid off.
Yeah, and I had been to Nashville once before with my aunt and a friend of mine. We did this little thing as a trio, and we came in, and my aunt had known somebody here in Nashville, and so anyway, we met with them, and I just fell in love with the city then, but I didn't have an opportunity because I still had a job at the time, But when I got laid off, I was like, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to try it. So I just loaded up everything I could get in this whole beat up car I had, and off I went.
So at home, you're playing around bars. Are you playing around bars at home at all?
Not a lot, honestly. My background was more of I sang in a gospel group. Then I went from that to a bluegrass group. I played bluegrass for about 6 years with this group called Special Edition.
Were you known as the guy that was doing music while working at the plant by your workers?
Yeah.
By your coworkers?
Yeah, they'd always ask me to sing.
Would you ever sing at work?
I don't remember.
Just gather them around and be like, all right, boys.
Yeah. They sing that song, whatever.
Isn't it funny how the things at the time that seem, and this happened over my career, my life too, were really, I put finger quotes up, unfortunate things that happened to us turn out to really be blessings.
Dude, blessing, the biggest blessing ever, yeah. Because if I hadn't got laid off, I probably would have never left there, so.
When you get laid off, do you remember how that happened? Did your boss, your foreman come in and go, all right, you're done?
No, it was just more of I got a phone call, I think, and they said, plant shut down. Don't go out there. So.
And then immediately do you go, all right, time to go to Nashville? Like, was it kind of in the chamber already?
No, it took a couple of months, of drawing unemployment. And I thought, well, I might as well think of something. I had a good friend of mine. We used to discuss things. He moved to Dallas and became an accountant. And, that's what I want to, he said, you ought to try music. You're really good at it and all that stuff. So.
And when you got to town, did you feel like you were good enough to get in the mix immediately?
I just felt really lost, honestly, when I first got to town because I had just gotten divorced and I missed my kids, and and I was just in this new place and I didn't have a place to live, and and all this kind of stuff.
What'd you do? Where'd you move?
I finally moved in with a musician, a guy named David Greer, and we rented a house with no heater in it for about a year.
And what are you doing when you first moved to Nashville? Meaning, are you out trying to meet people, play rider rounds? Like what happens with a new artist
First
then?
with me, I needed some income, so I got a job. I knew a guy that worked at Gibson Guitars, and so they hired me out there to work in the warehouse, shipping guitars everywhere. So, and then after that, I would just do whatever I could. I'd go to showcases and just go hang out, just to get out there and meet people.
It's so interesting to hear about because like I know you as the country music legend, but I love hearing like the origin story of the hustle because I think so many people don't know that there's a hustle for everyone.
Man, I tell you what, there was days seriously. We didn't have anything in the house to eat. I mean, nothing. One time I think I had like I don't know 75 cents on me, and I went by this funniest thing ever. I didn't know they didn't have White Castles in Dunkin'. So I saw it said a hamburger, 25 cents. I thought, oh yeah, I can, So I stopped
Get a
in.
couple burgers.
Yeah. So I know. I said, the guy said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like a hamburger, please." He goes, "Just one?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't know they were,
Tiny.
tiny.
Yeah. Let's talk about this new project. So it's your first ever vinyl, right?
Yeah.
And so it's called Joe Diffie.
Right.
So tell me about this.
It's just a compilation of some number one songs we had, and we included a new song on it. I just always kind of wanted a vinyl, and it seems to be kind of coming back in fashion right now. So,
Where can people get it?
JoeDiffie.com/vinyl.
And each album is individually autographed and numbered.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
You sign them all?
I
Or
did.
did you have the family sign them all?
No,
for you?
I signed every stinking one
They're
of them.
all different
Dude,
signatures.
I was trying to be meticulous about it because you sign 500 of anything. After a while, you're like, man, I just don't care.
I know at first because I was like when I did my books, the first book I wrote, I was a little more like I'm gonna make everything so
After a while,
Then you're like, you know what? I think they're gonna even like it. You start convincing yourself that sloppy's cooler
Right,
too.
right, it
You're
might
like,
be
it's more
cooler.
of my
Yeah.
artsy side.
I even at one point, early in my career, because I was signing so many things, I was trying to come up with a faster way to sign my name, just like make a line and two dots or something, But it never did look right.
You're living here. You and the same roommate. Are you still together while you're working at the guitar place?
For a little while,
Yeah.
then I moved out, and that's kind of how I got my first break actually in the music business. Was I moved out with him and moved in with this brother and sister who worked with the brother at Gibson, and as it happened, a super talented songwriter guy lived next door, and his name's Johnny Neal, and so. Johnny, he can't see; he's blind. So my friend John, that I moved in with, this is not getting too complicated.
No, we got plenty of time.
But John would take him to various things, to whatever you need to do, sessions or whatever. And then one day John was working, and so Johnny asked, he said, "Man, I think somebody." He called the house, and I answered the phone. And he said, "Man, I need John to come get me." I said, "Well, he's not here," and he's like, "Well, oh, man, I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, I'll come get you." He goes, "Really?" So I didn't really know him, So anyway, we hit it off and we started writing songs together. That's how I got my first publishing deal, was through him.
Was that a big deal to you to get paid to write songs?
Oh Lord, yes, absolutely. They paid me $100 a week to write songs, and then they paid for the demos, the cost of the demos. So, and then that's how I got kind of discovered, I guess, quote unquote.
Were you singing the demos?
I was singing the demos, so then the musicians and other guys were like, "Hey, I gotta." Well, come see my demo for me, So,
What do you think about your vocal style? What do you think it was that attracted people to you?
oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that.
How would you classify yourself as a singer?
Well, pretty country, I mean, but I'm able to kind of branch out. Like on this new project, I did a duet with an incredible singer named Mark Broussard.
I know Mark Broussard.
Yeah,
He's
Mark.
like Louisiana.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
yeah, he's fantastic. And I just happened to, I was listening to him as we were riding along on the bus. We listened to various music, and he happened to be in town recording same time I was. So I we contacted him, and I just wanted to go meet him and say hi, So I did, and he played me some of this new album he was working on, and so we became friends. We're not like super close friends or anything, but then I said, man, I'm looking to do some duets. I said, would you be interested in singing something? He goes, yeah. So he came over, and we were looking at each other, we're like, well, what do we do? He goes, I don't know. I said, Pride and Joy? I said, kind of.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, right?
Yeah. I said, kind of. I kind of do, yeah. And so we said, let's do that one. So we ended up doing that one.
That's pretty cool. Here it is right here.
She's my pride and joy. She's my sweet little baby. I'm a little lover boy. Well, I love my lady. She's long and lean. You mess with her, you see a man get mean.
And that's on the new vinyl project.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, will you see if he's from Louisiana?
He is. He's from Karen Crow.
Okay, I never want to mess it up, but I felt like he was.
Yeah, Karen Crow, Louisiana. Yeah.
And you grew up in Oklahoma?
Yeah, mostly.
When you were growing up, and is it true you were so good at all the sports that they named you like athlete of the year at your school?
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's the old days. But yeah.
What was your sport?
Well, mostly I was probably the best at football. I played it was a small school, so
Play both ways.
Played both ways.
We did in my school too.
Really, never left the field really. I was a deep guy on punch and kickoffs, and then I also was I never left the field. So
are you still a big football fan?
Oh yeah.
Who's your team?
Well, I mean, of course I like the pros. I like the Titans, and of course the Cowboys. That's who I grew up around. Was near the Cowboys. So college team Oklahoma, OU.
Yeah, big Sooner fan.
Yeah.
So did you watch the Heisman ceremony?
I did not. I was working.
Jalen got third.
He got third.
He got third. Great season.
Yeah.
But OU's in it. They're playing LSU.
I know they're in the top four.
It's 4 versus 1.
That's going to be a tough game, brother. That's going to be a real.
It's going to be a real tough game.
Yeah, LSU is loaded.
Well, so you're a good football player. You're a punt returner, huh?
Well, yes.
Ish.
Yeah.
I returned a few punts. And I'll tell you what I did not like was standing there vulnerable as that ball's coming down.
I know.
And you can just feel, without even seeing, you know how if you're in a room, Joe, and you know somebody's looking at you?
Absolutely.
And you don't have to look up to feel someone's
Right.
eyes on you.
Exactly.
But you're imagining that with 9 or 10 guys coming at you hard.
Right.
Same kind of feeling.
And you're like trying to judge, do I catch
Do
it?
I catch? Yeah, and do I run? Do I wave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Once
It's harder than it looks, I guarantee you that.
Yeah, because you have to have tremendous focus, right? And once I didn't fair catch it, and I thought I'm gonna just take off with this ball. Thought I had some space, and the ball's coming down, and I get a little alligator arm, and it hits my hand, and I bobble it, and it's on the ground, and it was the only time that I really lunged for a fumble in my because I mostly play wide receiver,
Yeah.
and I didn't return a lot of punts, especially after this story here, but I botched the ball, and I was like, I got to go dive for it, and diving for a fumble was, I think, the most physical part of it, because it was just bam, bam,
Everybody's piling on, man.
and diving, and I was on the bottom, and I was like,
Lord.
I'm done.
You ever hear those guys scream in the bottom, because they're down there and then something's happening to them?
Oh yeah,
You hear that terrified
people
scream.
grab and twist, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a whole deal.
It's a whole. So you play football, you play basketball,
Basketball,
baseball,
track, golf.
5-sport guy, huh? Did you think about playing in college at all?
Well, I thought about it, but I never did get any scholarship offers for football. I actually had some small college offer me a sight unseen basketball scholarship, oddly enough, and I wasn't that great at. I mean, I was okay, but no, I have a cousin that played at Oklahoma State, and he was younger than and so I asked him, I said, "Do you think I could play there?" He goes, "Oh, absolutely. There's
Really?
no doubt." So. But I never get any scholarship offers. I had a couple of coaches in small colleges asked me to walk on, and if it worked out, they'd give me a scholarship. But I never did.
So you're in Nashville, and so you're driving Jimmy, right?
Johnny Neal.
Johnny, excuse me. There's John and Johnny.
Yeah.
You're driving Johnny Neal.
Right.
And so you go pick him up the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then how does that relationship turn into something? Because you guys start
Well,
writing
I
together.
had bugged him a couple times that I'd love to write with him, of course. Just a newbie, I didn't really know much about it, and he kind of gave me the old brush off, maybe one day we'll, maybe, but we just hit it off. We had a few minutes to like actually talk and goofing around, and so he said, "Well, come on over." So we wrote a couple songs, and he had a little studio at his house so we turned those demos in, and his publisher at the time signed me as well. So that's kind of how it got started. And I don't think John and I ever we got a couple of cuts. I got one on remember the Forrester Sisters?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Come Hold Me. And then, so then I started writing with another guy named Lonnie Wilson, great drummer, session drummer and writer and singer. And we had our first top 5 record with Holly Dunn. It was There Goes My Heart Again was the name of it.
So a top 5 song back in late 80s. Did you make any money off that?
Dude, I went to the mailbox. I never seen that much money in my life.
Really?
It was like the first installment, Yeah. I was like, I got to write more songs. It's pretty cool.
And how long do those checks keep coming?
Oh, the first year is pretty good, and after that it tapers off significantly and almost down to nothing.
And you're cutting these demos that people are interested in your singing style, which we were on a minute ago. So when did it become a thing where you go, okay, I think it's time for me to try to be an artist?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I had in mind all along, but I just knew that songwriting would be a good avenue to meet people and to just because it was part of the music business, such a significant part. So but I always had that in my mind, being an artist. But and I didn't really have any way that I knew. It takes somebody to promote you, basically. And so I started doing demos for these couple of guys, and they knew they were good friends with Bob Montgomery, who was at Epic Records at the time, and so after they played him some demos, so he called me over and met with me and said, how'd you like to have a record deal? And I'm like, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
So that was the conversation that kind of changed it all for you. The how would you like to have a record deal conversation?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I said, man, I wanted to do this my whole life. And he said, no, you haven't. I looked at him, I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you haven't lived your whole life yet. I said, oh, okay. One of those guys.
How long from when you were laid off until you got your record deal?
3 years.
So you spent a couple months figuring it out. You moved here, you wrote, so 3 years from there to there.
Right.
Do you feel like you matured a lot as an artist in that time?
In those 3 years?
Yeah.
Probably just from the sheer volume of demos and stuff I did. They're all various styles, and so you kind of had to learn to do that kind of, just so, yeah, I think so.
A lot of the artists and a lot of my friends too that are here, that you kind of come in classes. You don't do it on purpose, but when you move to town, you start meeting other people that move to town around the same time,
Right.
and that kind of becomes your pack that you grow up with
It
because you're
is.
all on a similar level.
Exactly.
When you move here, like who is some of the folks in your class?
Well, let's see. There was Trisha Yearwood. There was T. Graham Brown. There was, Garth was singing some demos. I don't know if many of the other ones were as, but I mean, the same guys that are, in my generation are, of course, the Mark Chestnuts and Tracy Lawrence and those guys, so.
What was Trisha doing? Was she working at Mary Tyler Moore Music, or was she singing demos?
I'm not sure. I had only met her a few times, and we sang a couple of demos together.
Really?
Yeah, which is cool. And then I got her to sing a chick song, quote unquote, that I had written. So she sang it for me. So we've been friends ever since.
So whenever you hear or you see someone like Garth or Trisha back then, were you like, man, there's something special about them? Like you think, or is it just the land of giants where everybody's good?
Most everybody was good. It was just, you felt like it was just kind of a crapshoot. Somebody's going to get lucky and get that deal, and something happened. I'll tell you a weird story, and people might think this is really odd. I've done this twice in my life. I went to a showcase where it was Garth, and it was at Douglas Corner, and I was sitting around having a beer, talking to some friends of mine, and I look up, and he's playing, and up there, and I saw an aura around him. I'm not kidding you. So I started looking around the room. I thought, well, the lights got to be weird. That's something weird going on here. And I couldn't find any reason that he had a blue aura around him. I swear to goodness, it was the weirdest thing. And the other time was my wife, Tara. I saw her. She had an aura.
Now, do you think that that's in your eyes? Do you think that you saw something special?
I didn't know what it was. It was just, I saw it. And I asked, I said, y'all see that? And everybody else was like, no. And I'm like, man, that's okay. I'm going to keep quiet here. So.
Did you ever talk to Garth in the early days? Were you guys buddies
a few
at all?
times. We didn't, but we weren't super close or anything,
Who were your buds? Musically, who were your buds? And who did you like tour with? Who'd you like to tour with?
Well, I've had a lot of them. I like all of the people I've toured with.
But let's do this Mount Rushmore of your favorite tour buddies. Four of them.
Lord.
You only get four.
Oh gosh, that's hard, man.
It is. I'm putting the screws to you, Joe.
I mean, of course. I mean, I toured with Garth some. I didn't do a whole lot. He used to open shows for me, oddly enough. Yeah, and but we did that, and I opened some shows for him after that. Of course, one of my closest buddies is Mark Chestnut, and he's always really consistent. And gosh, who else would it be that I toured with? Travis Tritt's an incredible singer. Did a year-long tour with him.
How was that? Because I know Travis a little bit, and he's at times is very in your face.
Yeah.
And at times is super warm.
Yeah.
How was you and Travis's relationship?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was very good. Yeah. We just had a good time as me, Travis, myself, and Leroy Parnell were out there, and it was a good package. We had a lot of fun.
You got one more on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh gosh.
You got Garth, Chestnut,
Tracy Lawrence. Tracy's always good. When you go see him. I'm trying to think who else I toured with. I've done so many, various packages here and there that I can't even remember them.
You ever put a kid opening and that kid turned out to be a big star way later on?
Let me think. I almost said Brad Paisley, but I'm not sure that ever happened. Because I see I met a kid the other night that came up and he opened for me and Chestnut were doing an acoustic thing, and he came up and sang, and this kid was really good.
What was his name? Remember?
I don't remember.
It's me.
It was you?
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
Some little place in Texas we were at, and man, we got him up to sing, and he was like, he nailed it. He sang, "Is It Cold in Here?" My song. So
here's another number one. This is "If the Devil Danced."
If the devil danced in empty pockets, he'd have a ball in mind. Well, he said, friend.
A little bit of that Texas swing in that song.
Yeah.
Is that your second number one song?
I know. I think that was like the third one.
Yeah,
I believe.
So home hits. You have a number one. What was the second big one for you?
If You Want Me To.
Okay.
If You Want Me To. And then I think actually, it may have been New Way to Lap an Old Flame. I can't remember. I lost track.
Pickup Man, which jam. Where do you put this in the set list?
Oh, it's fourth or fifth.
It's got to be interesting to put together a set list for you because you have so many big songs.
It's hard. It's really hard. I remember touring with. I got the final when George Strait put him on that Mount Rushmore.
You toured with George Strait?
Yeah. When I first started.
What year was that?
It had to have been 91 or 2, somewhere in that range.
What is a tour like with you and George Strait?
Well, I didn't really get to see George very much. He was kind of a private person, and and he didn't really come to sound checks or anything. So, I mean, I saw him occasionally, and he's super nice, man. He just, I just remember I was pretty tickled when he finally, said, "Hey, Joe, how you doing?" I'm like, "All right." Yeah, George knows my name now, so.
Bigger Than the Beatles.
Yeah.
Here's this one right here, number one for you.
They got love bigger than the Beatles, wild and free like a rolling stone. They got love takes a
For me, whenever I would hear you as a kid, I always felt like you were smiling when you were singing. Like that.
That is part of it, when you're trying to, I mean, you do think of that. You try to emote, put your feelings into the songs you're singing, so yeah.
I always felt like, when I think about your songs, I always think, man, Joe Diffie sounds like he's having a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be if I were to talk about, if someone's like, "What's Joe Diffie sound like?" I would say, "Sound like he's smiling, like he's having fun, singing about country."
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about these artists like the Luke Combs? I'm setting you up here, but the guys that are really super traditional style again.
Yeah.
Does that excite you?
I love it. Yeah. I mean, country's always been a little bit cyclical, and it goes from one thing to another, kind of vacillates back and forth. So I love Luke. I got to, along with Vince Gill and a couple other folks, got to induct him into the Grand Ole Opry recently. So that was pretty cool.
Whenever the Aldean song 1994 came out, and the famous lyric is Joe Diffie. Did you know this was coming?
Yeah. I actually had heard. It started off, somebody contacted me and said, "Man, there's a song somewhere out there that has your name in it." I said, "Oh, really?" So somehow we got a copy of it. It was a demo. Thomas Rhett was one of the writers on that. And so the first time I heard it was Thomas Rhett's version, and it was a lot more kind of rap feeling than Jason's version. Jason has a lot more guitars and stuff. So yeah, I just like me and my band members were sitting around. I said, "Here's that song, got my name in it apparently." So I put it in there, and it had all that. We're looking at each other like, "What the hell is that?" You know. So
They bring you out? Or wait, where was it? Were they doing this at an award show?
it was ACMs. They had the giant head.
Is that what it
Yeah.
was? I remember seeing it. That's what it was. It was the,
Yeah.
the giant
It
head.
dropped out of the ceiling. Yeah.
Did you find when that song comes out that people were going, like younger kids, were like, who the heck is Joe Diffie?
Yeah.
Like 12-year-olds.
Dude, I'm that's a good setup for saying this, that because of Jason and Thomas Rickus. Thomas does that song in his show as well, you know, and so it's being heard by a lot of people, you know, and so our crowds have just been tremendous, and a lot more, you know, younger people, and they know every daggone word to every song, which is pretty amazing.
Back in the day, there was the TV commercial. There was, I think, they did Pickup Man. Pickup Man was used in maybe a car truck commercial.
Ford truck commercial, yeah.
And did they redo the words a little bit in it,
Well, yeah,
or did they get another singer,
No.
or what was it?
No, that was actually me on camera. It's the same one you're talking about. That commercial actually aired on during the Super Bowl. So
That's when that commercial aired?
Yeah.
You were in the Super Bowl commercial?
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that cool? I got more people though that had no idea who I was that saw that. They were like, "Hey, you're that pickup guy," you know. So,
People would recognize you
Yep.
for being the pickup guy from the commercial more
oh,
than...
because I was on camera too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they would see you from the... It's interesting because I was talking to Brad Paisley a couple weeks ago, and I said, hey, are people like coming up to you as the insurance guy?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, a lot of people don't even know that I do music
Right.
if they don't know country music, and they only know me from I think the Nationwide commercials.
Yeah.
That's right, Mike?
Yeah.
And so people were coming up to you, and you're the Super Bowl commercial guy?
Yep.
Is that a nice payday to do a Super Bowl commercial?
Yes. It's very nice.
I love paydays. I grew up poor.
That song though has made me probably more money than any of the other songs I've had, and I didn't write the song. A couple of friends of mine wrote it, and so they get paid as well, you know. But for the royalty, publishing, and all that stuff. So, but I was also an Applebee's commercial, and
Was it their like cars to go service?
it was like, yeah, you pick up. Yeah, they changed the lyrics on it, and I'll tell you the miracle of modern stuff. You know, I had a studio in my house, and so somehow we got my booking agents got. They said that they were interested in using Pickup Man as a part of an Applebee's commercial, and so they sent me a CD of it, just the music, and the lyrics changed it, that they had rewritten it basically, and so I just stuck it in the thing, read the lyrics, sang it down. Took me about an hour, and I sent it back. I thought it was going to be like a presentation or a demo for them, and they used it.
Oh, they
That's
did.
what they used, and they kept renewing it. Man, it was like, this is great. I said, can I get some more of those commercials?
Is that where it is? Like in the sync
Yeah.
stuff?
Boy, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get in one of those deals, that's a pretty good deal.
What's touring like for you now?
It's great.
You doing a bunch of shows?
A lot, yeah. I've been working a lot, and probably you know, just staying really busy, which is really good. I like working. You know, we were talking earlier that the travel part gets a little old. You know, you get tired from that, but I mean, you know, get to sing, play around, and mess around all the time. It's like I told my guys, it's like we're on a big camping trip all the time. You know, so we have fun.
You worked in an oil field for a while.
I did.
You drove a truck to pump cement. Is that true?
Yeah.
What was that work like?
It sucked. Yeah, it was for a company called Halliburton, and oddly enough, they used to be headquartered in Duncan, Oklahoma, but I had to move to Alice, Texas to get to work for them because I had an uncle that worked for them, and so I didn't do that for very long. I was there for about 3-4 months or so, and it was like you're gone all the time, and the pay was not that great, and so I just decided I didn't like that. So I moved back to Duncan and got a job in that foundry.
So what about you going to medical school?
I always, if you had asked me when I was a kid, that's what I always wanted to be, was a doctor. And I used to read medical books, and I followed my parents around reading them facts and figures on that kind of stuff, you know.
What'd your mom and dad do?
They were both teachers. My dad did a little bit of everything. He had his own welding company for a while. He had a repossession company for a while, which he didn't
So
really
he was having
like.
to repo cars?
Yeah, He didn't like that. That
Like
didn't
in the
last
middle of the
long.
night, like
Yes.
go and wow, that's a
Oh,
dangerous.
it's very dangerous. He got shot at a couple of times. He said he didn't like that. So
Wow.
yeah, so he actually built, since he was a welder, he built this rig on like a hook that was hydraulic, and it would come out of the back of the pickup, and the tailgate would lower down, and he would just back up to the cars and pick them up and drive off with them.
That's a crazy line of work,
It
Joe.
is, man. Yeah.
And thinking as kids, we see adults do things, and we're like, that's just kind of normal.
Right.
But as you get to be an adult, and you see other adults repoing and people shooting at them,
Yeah,
that's
that's
crazy.
Yeah, he didn't last long with that. He didn't like that at all. So, and plus, you're having to, and he just the human element of it. A lot of people, they couldn't, they were behind on their payments through whatever. Some of them were just
Yeah.
bums, and some of them just lost their jobs or something, or were ill, and the bank would, tell him to go get this car, so he had to work with the bank a lot, and so he didn't like that either, because people had to come. He had to tow it to a yard, and then people came to the yard, and he had to be out there while they gathered their belongings out of their repossessed car,
Wow.
Yeah, so he didn't like that.
1993, you were inducted into the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
That's a real special thing.
That was one of my highlights of my career. I consider it,
How did you get told you were going to be in the Opry?
Kind of the same way I got told by Record Deal. I went out to the Opry and met with the guy who, I can't remember his name right now. He was the head of it back then, and I don't know why we were even out there. I was out there with my managers, and he goes, "Well, how would you like to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry?" I was like, "Yeah." So that really, that's how I got my record deal and the Grand Ole Opry thing. So it's pretty cool.
Pretty low key
It
invitations
was very
to
low
both.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it true that your parents said you could sing harmonies when you were 3 years old?
Yeah.
Nah, you probably can't remember. You remember 3?
Yeah.
You do remember 3?
I remember singing we had a pickup, and I had two sisters, and so we would all be all five of us be in the truck, and to keep us occupied and from screaming at each other, they would sing little simple songs, little kid songs, and we'd sing along with them. So.
And at 3, you could harmonize.
I just heard it. It was in my head. I could hear it.
Were you always a really good singer as a 7-year-old? In church or wherever you were singing? Were you always the?
I guess, it's hard to evaluate, hard to judge it,
I guess were you rewarded for your singing at a very young age? Were people telling you, "Wow, Joe"?
Yeah. I mean, I remember my aunt got me up in front of with her band, and I got up and sang "You're My Sunshine" or something like that, and so it was pretty cool.
What was it like in the 90s touring with no internet and no cell phone and no Google Maps? Do you ever just end up with the bus in a wrong town?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, you would?
Oh, yeah. Of course, you have to get the map out, and then you had to know hey, even our satellite, did have a satellite dish, but the bus had to be stopped, and you had to physically enter in, get the atlas out, and figure out your latitude and your longitude, and enter those coordinates in, and then it would raise up. Yeah.
Would you ever get somewhere and because there weren't cell phones, realize there was no show happening anymore? Or
No.
you get there and nah, we try to get a hold of
Yeah,
you, but the
no.
carrier pigeon,
No, we unfortunately never had that happen. But
What kind of country music artists are you drawn to now?
I guess I have a tendency to lean more towards the country or the country side of things, which so I enjoy Luke and Brad Paisley and a couple other guys that I think are good singers,
Growing up, who was your favorite?
Oh man, well it'd probably have to be George Jones. I mean that's who I emulated. So learned a lot just by emulating him. But I mean I had a whole range of of course I had the regulars that everybody mentions: Haggard, Jones, Johnny Cash, Conway. There was a whole plethora of those people, but I actually I loved Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton as well, and Connie Smith, and so I heard a lot of those.
Being from Oklahoma, and I'll preface it with my story. I'm from Arkansas, so it was Johnny Cash and Conway Twitty, and listen, Wichita Lineman was so big too. Anybody from Arkansas was a big deal to us because there weren't a lot of us
Right.
who made it on any sort of national stage.
Yeah.
Being from Oklahoma, who was it that you looked at and was like, wow, this is one of our guys doing it or one of our girls doing it?
Well, I mean, obviously, they aren't that much older than I am, but I mean, Reba and Vince, they were already involved in doing stuff before I ever moved to Nashville, so that was pretty cool to see that, and you kind of take that and feel good about it.
Man, That's crazy. Like, I did the Mike. What was the thing in DC I did with Reba?
Kennedy Honors.
I did the Kennedy Honors for Reba.
yeah.
I got to go. Went up and did 10 minutes of stand up, and there was like 6 of us that presented to Reba. It was me and Brooks and Dunn and Kristen Chenoweth and Kelly Clarkson. But anyway, so I go up and I'm doing comedy, but I'm also talking through as I'm doing comedy Reba's Oklahoma life,
Oh yeah.
where she was. It was doing working the rodeos,
Right.
like singing the rodeos, and to
I think that's how she got discovered. Was
singing
it
the
not?
national anthem at the rodeo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tex Ritter, I think, is the one.
Who for you saw you sing? I know you got a record deal, but who saw you randomly, if anyone, and they were like, man, I think there could be, like, you're actually pretty good there, Joe. Did you ever have one
Well,
of
there
those
was
moments?
this old drunk guy at a bar
Yeah.
in Warwick, Oklahoma. he threw $5 at me. He said, "Son, you ought to move to Nashville. You're really good." So,
You ever see anybody cover your songs nowadays and you go, man, that's a really good version of that song?
I've heard a couple of them. Yeah, it sounds real good. It's fun. It's fun to me to hear them.
If you could pick one of your songs to be covered again now and be made a hit again, which song would you like to see reborn?
That's a good question. Well, I know my favorite song is "Ships That Don't Come In."
Oh, come on. I love
know?
that. Let me listen to that.
To all the soldiers who have ever died in vain, the insane locked up in themselves, the homeless down on Main.
So, everybody listening right now, there's a lot of artists that listen to this podcast. Ships That Don't Come In. That's the cover to do.
No, it is, man. That's such a great song. I've told the writers, Dave Gibson and Paul Nelson, I said that song didn't need me, but it needed somebody to sing it because it's just such a great song. I think it could have been a hit with anybody, So I was glad I got it.
Anybody cool ever come up to you that you're like, man, they're a fan of you, but you're like, that's really cool. They're a fan of me.
A lot. Yeah, a lot. Some people I revere, I was going to introduce myself to Merle Haggard one time at the ACMs, and I walked up, and he goes, "Joe, how you doing, man? I'm a big fan of yours." I'm like, Merle Haggard knows my name. That just blows my mind, Ronnie Millsap told me he was, So, yeah, that's a really special thing when somebody who you idolize tells you that,
Can you go to dinner in Nashville or in Tennessee without being bothered?
Yeah, I mean, people are pretty cool. They are, and I just always feel like it's really not a bother. I mean, the only time it ever even kind of gets under my skin a little bit is if I'm in the middle of eating.
I often say if people are eating or with their kids,
Yeah,
those are really the only 2 times, because otherwise, everybody knows what they signed up for.
right. Yeah,
You're
no,
a
and
public figure, but eating, like literal food on the
I
table.
have food, a fork in my hand, eating something. But I mean, and of course, people don't mean any harm by it. In fact, George Jones and I were at to dinner one evening, and this lady came up, and we were in the middle of eating, and she comes up with her little boy, and she goes, "I don't mean to bother you guys." And George goes, "Well, what are you doing it for then?" He was teasing, of course,
So what is it like to be a fan of George Jones and then here you are having dinner?
I know. I didn't even know how. I couldn't even talk to him. I didn't know what to even ask him.
I'm assuming he has to invite you.
Yeah.
And where did that relationship, how did it start?
Just from doing a couple shows together, and I sang on his hit song "I Don't Need Your Rocking Chair."
I don't need
That's
your
it.
rocking chair.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Your Geritol or your
That's the
Medicare.
one, yeah. So I did
That
that.
was such a
And that was
jam.
one of the most special things, not only because of that, but I got to take my dad. I didn't tell him where we were going. He was George Jones was his idol, So I just took him. He said, "Where are we going?" I said, "Just come on," So I took him in there, and there was he saw Alan Jackson, Clint Black, and all these people. He was like, "What is this? What's going on here?" Then the limo pulls up, and George gets out. He was I never seen. He was speechless. He just was stunned by it, So it was a
That's really
moment.
cool, right?
Yeah,
Like of all the moments, like getting to do things for the people that you care about.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's been like kind of the coolest thing I've been able to do.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool that you're a big fan of George Jones, and then you're at dinner with George Jones.
It took me a couple of times before I was able to even converse with him because I was so nervous and he was just such an icon in my eyes. But I found that later on he's just so country, he's like talking to your grandpa. He couldn't hear real good, So you'd say something and he'd go what, So then I got him to sing on a song with me, and it was really cool too.
Did you ever meet Tammy?
Oh yeah, Tammy was one. She loved my singing. Yes, you asked about that earlier. I forgot about Tammy. She was a huge fan of mine. In fact, I sang on. She did an album of duets with a lot of rock artists, and I think me and Winona were the only two country people she asked to be on there. So that was really neat to sit there. I mean, you talk about bizarre. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there right next to Tammy Wynette, and we sang it live. We sang it down live. It was, there was no overdubbing or punching in. It was that's what it was. So
Were you around when they were doing the tours of stars' homes, when they would actually drive by people's houses?
yeah,
Which nowadays seems really weird.
it's a pain. It's a pain in the rear. You be out mowing your lawn.
So this would happen to you, right?
All the time, yeah.
So you're out mowing the yard. What happens?
Oh, you're all sweaty, and and there here there comes that bus full of people, and they are all taking pictures of you, and your sweat dripping off of you. You got grass all over you. It's like, hi, how y'all doing?
How would they find your house?
I don't know how I don't know how they did it.
Because if they did that nowadays, that would be the weirdest.
Well, I asked him. I actually made a request. I said, "Look, not only it's bothering me, but it's bothering my neighbors as well. To have these buses coming and stopping in everybody getting out and all this.
They would
stuff."
get out of the
Yeah,
bus.
a couple times they did, yeah. So
And I guess it's not illegal.
no, I actually called and asked, "Is there any way we can make this stop?" And they're like, "Nope." So okay. So it was kind of weird. So after that, literally, I'd be out mowing the lawn or doing something outside, and I'd be watching because I knew about what time of day they came by. And so I just watched for them. I go hide, run behind the shed.
Everybody check it out. Joe Diffie. Each album is individually autographed and numbered, and it's at joediffie.com/vinyl.
Correct.
But I'm sure if you just go to joediffie.com, there's also a link up there that says for the vinyl, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
If you can't spell vinyl. Because I'm be honest, it's not a great word to spell.
It is not.
VINYL.
Yeah.
Not the
Are
easiest.
you sure?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't bet any money
VY.
on that. As long as there's a bar.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
A couple of great friends of mine wrote that. A guy named Gavin Griffin and Brian Keith Burns, who was in Trick Pony, and he played bass for me for like 7 years early in my career. And so they wrote this song. It just reminded me, it propped me up a little bit. So that's mostly the reason I did it.
With a lot of the music from when I was a kid in the 90s, where you have a bunch of your number one songs kind of re-emerging as a big deal, did that help your touring? 90s country, was it like
Absolutely.
It was like a whole new rebirth of touring for you?
Absolutely, yeah, helped it tremendously. And like I say, with that advent of that song, 1994, I got so many new fans and younger fans. It's really been pretty amazing to me.
Well, I'm super happy that you came by.
Thank you.
Good luck. Hope you sell so many of these vinyl records that you're so annoyed with having to sign them. That's the
That's
greatest
the
problem to
best
have.
problem in the world.
It is
right
the
there.
best.
It is.
I would
It's
get
awesome.
so irritated signing these books, and I'd be like, I'm so happy to be irritated. It was the
Yeah.
greatest irritation.
You got to sit. Sometimes you get a little biased or just worn out with things over time, and you kind of. It's good to get a little check once in a while, just to kind of a little gut check to say, okay, wait a minute, I'm doing the best. I got the best job in the world. I could be out roofing a house,
And I used to do that.
or
I could be back on doing clean. I used to do cleanup from roofing houses, which is even worse than roofing houses.
Yeah, right. So I'm just so lucky and so blessed. I got a great family, and so great friends. So it's a pleasure for me.
Well, you're always welcome. I got a Christmas card from you.
All right. Yes.
Did you know that?
I did. Yes.
I felt like I was giving him news, Mike. He was like, "Oh, you got a Christmas card? I got a Christmas card from you a couple days
My
ago."
wife sent out a gazillion, but we're glad that you're on the list.
So it was news to you.
Well, she told me about it yesterday.
Oh, okay, good,
or
good,
day
good.
before yesterday.
Regardless, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought it was pretty cool. joediffie.com/vinyl. Joe, good luck and good to see you again.
Thank you, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
you having me.
Episode 217 here on the Bobbycat.